So these are my video notes between Purdue and Wisconsin using SportsCode. So I'm just going to look at the output window and then we'll look at some film. So the story of this game essentially is that Wisconsin suffers from the same problem as Ohio State in their personnel, and that they're very small at the 5 position. So when they verse a team like Purdue, who's got big 5s in Edey and Williams, they kind of get bodied in the paint and they lose. So Wisconsin tried to counter that by 3-point shooting and flopping. Neither strategy worked. So if we look at Wisconsin, the advanced stats, they shot 1.1 3-point shots to every 1 2-point shot. So that's a pretty high 2 to 3-point shooting ratio. So they were heavily weighting on threes. Yet if we look at their catch and shoot threes, they shot 27 of them, which was 50% of their shots essentially. They only shot scored only 0.78 points per catch and shoot three. They only scored 30% of their points from that. You can see that only 5 of those shots were uncontested, and they only went 2 of 5 in those opportunities. So they were heavily relying on catch and shoot threes, but it just didn't work out. They're too heavily weighted in that particular shot category. You compare that to Purdue, and they scored most of their points in post-ups. So about 22% of their points, they went 8 of 13, and they were very successful in that area. And that's mainly because of Edey. So Edey, he was kind of the star of this game. He scored a career-high 21 points, along with 7 rebounds, 4 of which were offensive rebounds. Some of those points came in and-one situations, so he also went 5 of 7 in free throws, which is really good for a big man. When you look at the advanced stats, it's also pretty impressive. So he went plus 13. And when you compare that to the other center on Purdue, Williams, he went negative 11. So Edey was definitely the star of this game. Further, when you look at points above a replacement on offense, which I'll explain soon, he went 0.21. So what that means essentially is that he scored 0.21 more points per possession when he was on the court than the team average. So the team average is 0.87. So when Edey was on the court, they essentially scored over 1 point per possession. You compare that to Williams, who was negative 0.22 on the negative side. That means Purdue scored 0.22 points less per possession when Williams was on the court. So again, we see that they scored 0.87 points per possession. So when Williams was on the court, it was more about 0.65. So he was very impressive on offense. And when you look at that on defense, you can see that he actually only got 1 block. However, what was impressive about this 1 block for Edey, if we just open this clip and watch it, is that this 1 block came from not a shot at the rim, which you'd expect for someone like Edey, but actually on the perimeter. So a lot of teams, when they verse Purdue with Edey on the court, they basically spread the floor and try and put Edey in positions where he has to move in space. You can see here that Wisconsin center, Micah Potter, is out on the perimeter, and they're basically putting Edey in the blender, trying to make him rotate and find the shooter. He actually blocks the 3-point corner shot, which is very impressive for someone his size. But that's actually a small little microcosm of the bigger picture of this game, and that Edey was actually very good on offense. Wisconsin were trying to do what I just explained, put him in the blender, make him chase down corner shots. And he actually did a very good job of that, and he was turning uncontested shots into contested shots throughout the game. So he was very good on offense and defense. So the film we're going to look at basically is like a comparison between 2 different alternative Purdue offensive philosophies. So when Edey is on the court, Williams is not, and when Williams is on the court, Edey is not. It's a very binary substitution structure for Purdue. They only play 1-5 at a time, which makes sense. However, their offensive philosophies usually change quite a bit depending on who is on the court. So when Edey is on the court, their offense essentially ends with him, whereas when Williams is on the court, their offense essentially starts with him. So it's 2 very different philosophies, and they result in 2 very different scoring patterns. So when Edey's on the court, this is essentially what happens. They run these high-low actions where either Stevanovic or usually their 4, which is Wheeler or Gillis, will get the ball at the top of the perimeter. They'll spread the floor with shooters, and Edey will be in the middle, boxing his defender out, creating all the space under the rim. So Stevanovic will pass it in, and Edey will just get the ball, not even dribble, and just kind of lay it in, and here he gets the N1 with a superior length, and it always works out. So another possession, this time in the second half. This time Wheeler gets the ball, and again, he's the 4-man, so he's bringing Wisconsin's 4-man to the perimeter, isolating the defender that is guarding Edey in the paint. Edey gets the ball, bodies his man up, is able to get the basket. Now, I had to delete some clips because this basically happened every single offensive position that ED was on the court. Again, Gillis, who's their four-man, he comes to the perimeter, bringing the Wisconsin four-man out of the paint. Edey gets the ball. He's now isolated in this area. He doesn't even dribble. He just lays it in using his superior length. Again, in the second half, this time Hunter doesn't even bother, but Wheeler, as you can see, the four-man's brought their four-man to the perimeter. Edey's now isolated in the paint. He's able to miss it, but he gets the offensive rebound, put back with a superior length, and it goes in. Again, I had to delete some clips because this is essentially Purdue's offense when Edey's on the court. But you can see that all these offensive possessions end with Edey. He's not like starting with the ball. He doesn't dribble it at all. He's never dribbled it in the game. He catches the ball, does a few shimmies, boxes his man down, and lays the ball in. Whereas with Williams, it's a bit different. Now, I will admit these clips are a bit unfair because I've just cherry-picked these two clips. However, this is a larger indicator of how Purdue's offense works when Williams is on the court. So Williams likes to isolate the ball either on the left or right block. So he'll get the ball, have the entire Purdue offense on like one side, just him on the other side, and he'll look for either passes to shooters, usually with Ivy or Stevanovic or Newman, and he'll wait for the double and then pass it. However, if the double never comes, he'll kind of just shoot this fadeaway contested shot, not even in the paint, far away from the rim, and it very rarely goes in. So the position here is starting with Williams. He's kind of the initiator of the offense, looking for passes, waiting for the double, but it's also ending with him. This one, as I said, is a bit more unfair because it hasn't really started with Williams here. Purdue do try and make some offense before this. They're looking for some sort of shooting. They'll run Stevanovic on the baseline, try and screen for his open three-point shot. However, when that doesn't work, again, they go back to this William post-up isolation situation. Edey never does this because Edey's never in this position. However, with Williams and upperclassmen, they do kind of rely on him to initiate some of this offense. As you can see here, we've got Ivy, we've got Hunter, we've got Stevanovic again looking for a three-point shot. They're waiting for the double. When the double never comes, he's just going to lop it up. It very rarely goes in. It's contested and it's far away from the rim. So those are two contrasted Purdue offensive philosophies. One where we've got Edey, the ball ends with him, and he just has to basically lay it in, isolate it in the post. Then we've got this Williams offensive philosophy where it starts with him, he's backing players down, he's initiating the offense, waiting for a pass, or if not, he just shoots, and it's usually a poor shot. So those are my clips, those are my stats. If you like the output window, there's a link in the description to check it out. And if not, my email is also down there. You can contact me and we can have a chat. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you learned something.